Good evening. Our presentation is about task-based learning, 6 types of tasks for TBI, and task-based lesson. So let's go to the presentation outline. We will discuss introduction part, structure of TBL, strengths and weaknesses of TBL, 6 types of tasks for TBI, and we will show you the sample of task-based lesson. TBL became popular after Prabhu, who was working with secondary school students in India, noticed that they learned a language better if they were concentrated on doing a task or solving a problem instead of paying attention only to formal linguistic aspects. Here we have 2 definitions of TBL. According to Williams, the central focus of TBL is doing tasks. The aim of the task is to create real purpose for language use and provide natural context for language study. Students prepare for the task, report back after the task, and then study the language that arises naturally out of the task cycle and its accompanying materials. Now let's talk about the structure of TBL. TBL has 3 stages: the pre-task, task cycle, and language focus. In the pre-task, the theme is introduced through expressions, structures, and vocabulary, activating previous knowledge, and the teacher explains the task that can present examples of similar tasks performed by other people. In the task cycle, the students do the task in pairs or in the small group. The teacher monitors students' performance from a distance, enabling them to use their own knowledge, avoiding asking questions to the teacher all the time. After doing the tasks, the students prepare and plan how they are going to present what they did, what they found out, and their main conclusions. Next, in the last stage, language focus, they discuss and analyze the linguistic aspects that came up during the task. There is a focus on the form. Students practice their linguistic structures that appeared within the context in a natural way. Okay, next one will be about strengths and weaknesses of TBL approach. First, let's look at the strengths. Here we have 3 points that we need to highlight. First one is experiential learning. The learner's immediate personal experience is taken as the starting point in this approach. It is argued that intellectual growth occurs as learners take part and reflect on the sequences of the tasks. The active involvement is considered central to this approach, and therefore the approach is learner-centered. Next one, spontaneous interaction. Task-based learning helps learners to interact spontaneously. For example, a role play requires the learners to use language freely. It gives learners a chance to try out whatever language they already know, and it also gives learners a chance to notice and benefit from others' expressions and thereby build their level of confidence gradually. Next one, automaticity. Automaticity for language learning is defined as a more efficient, more accurate, and more stable performance. Research in the fields of cognitive psychology and second language acquisition suggests that automaticity is achieved by using language rules in a creative manner in an authentic communication situation. Opportunity to learn vocabulary. Pre-task stage helps students to improve vocabulary through predicting words related to the task title or topic, and building words into a word web by way of brainstorm, cooperative dictionary research, and by matching list of words with a list of definitions. Next, also it provides essential conditions for language learning. Task-based language learning encourages learners to use language purposefully and in cooperation. Learners get a chance to negotiate turns to speak and also try out various communication strategies. It prepares learners to use language in the real world. And the last one, it maximizes scope for communication. It engages learners in purposeful communication and gives chance to learners to try out various communication strategies and equip their learners with language for public use. Now we talked about the advantages. Let's slightly go to the disadvantages. Yeah, here we have several weaknesses. First, task difficulty. It is also defined in terms of first, code complexity, which includes vocabulary load, redundancy, and density. Second, communicative stress, which comprises of time limits, time pressure, speed, number of participants. Third, cognitive complexity, which consists of cognitive familiarity, comparing of familiarity of the topic, familiarity of the discourse genre, and familiarity of the task itself, and cognitive processing, which includes information clarity and sufficiency of information given. Second, diverse classes. A class consists of learners with different talents, learning styles, and motivation levels. Therefore, the task prescribed may be relevant for a few learners, and for others, it may be too difficult. And for some others, it may be too easy, and they may feel that it is a waste of time to perform the task. Mismatch between the learners and teachers' perception. Studies indicate that the same classroom event is often interpreted differently by the teachers and learners. The learners identify the following factors for task difficulty as first. Cognitive demand, it's difficulty in understanding the task, requiring more time or more attention and resources. Second, linguistic demand, vocabulary or structures the learners didn't know. Third, clarity of picture story, visual clarity, and conceptual transparency without ambiguity. Next, amount of information, both an overload of information and a positive information were undesired. Fifth one, task structure, the way information was organized. And the last one, affective factors, like liking a picture story or being able to relate to it would make it more enjoyable, if not easier. Next, disadvantages, cultural relativity of task-based teaching. This critique is socio-political in nature. It refers to the cultural and contextual constraints that are problematic in implementing task-based learning. Next, learner's perception. The learner's purposes are said to be distributed on a continuum between achievement orientation and survival orientation. If the learner perceives that a task is related closely to his or her needs, they tend to adopt an achievement orientation. Whereas on the other hand, if they do not perceive the relevance of the task, they adopt survival orientation and put in minimal effort and use the simplest strategy to perform the task. Next one, learners' needs neglected. One particular task may interest a few learners belonging to a particular gender or cultural background, but it may not be of interest to the others. Next, linguistic deficiency. Learners who are beginners with no linguistic resources find it very difficult to take part in a task, especially in speaking tasks like role play or describing the differences. Learners may find it very challenging. And the last one is authenticity of tasks. There are tasks like describing a picture to someone else so that they can draw the picture, identifying the differences between two pictures, telling a story based on a picture, etc., which are unlikely to occur in real life situations. Okay, let's go to the 6 types of tasks for TBI. Here you can see the list. First is listening. Means presenting vocabulary, topics, ideas, and information about a specific theme through brainstorming and fact-finding. Example can be students might have to make up a list of things they would pack if they were going on a beach vacation. Next, ordering and sorting. Ordering a sequence of pictures or paragraphs, ordering and ranking the vocabulary on a list according to different criteria, classifying from a list of vocabulary the students put each on in the right category using tables, grids, and present the pros and cons through mind maps. Example, students work in pairs and make up a list of the most important characteristics of an ideal vacation. Next, comparing. Compare ideas while interacting with other students and present them. Example, students compare ads for 2 different supermarkets. Next, problem solving. Complex tasks that enable the students to solve a problem or a situation. For instance, students read a letter to an advice columnist and suggest a solution to the writer's problem. Next one, sharing personal experiences. The same happens in the real world. When people share stories and personal experiences, it promotes communication and fluency and develops social skills. Example, students discuss their reactions to an ethical or moral dilemma. And the last one is creative tasks. Using tools, gadgets, and knowledge from other areas to be creative. Examples are posters, portfolios, pamphlets, videos, websites, radio programs, magazines, and newspapers. Students prepare plans for redecorating a house. Now, we would like to show the sample of task-based lesson. Let's imagine that the topic of the lesson is a sea journey. The class and course background is intermediate, upper intermediate. The aim of this class outline is to illustrate the first lesson in a series based on a new topic. A starting lesson, first announce new topic. And by the end of this lesson, students will have talked and written about different aspects of journeys by boat, read a short story about a sea journey. First, yes, we start with pre-task, which takes 15-20 minutes. Aim to introduce topic of sea journeys and give class exposure to topic-related talk to activate and highlight useful words and phrases. Starting points, 3 pictures of ships, big and small, and on rough and calm seas, teaches personal experience. So first example can be talking about pictures one by one while putting them up on the wall. And we ask several questions. Here you can see. And also students can share their own experience very briefly. Second, brainstorming with class on words and phrases. It is organizing on Word as a mind map, words about sea, boats, people, feelings, attitudes to sea journeys, being in a boat. Third one, also we can use recording, we can listen. Third, announcing recording of Rachel telling Chris about a sea journey, write up alternatives to have them listen alone or with family, big or small boat. We can play recording 2 or 3 times. In the next page, you can see this recording transcript, dialogue between Chris and Rachel. Okay, first one, let's let them read task instructions from textbook, give them 2 minutes thinking time. We slightly move to the task cycle. First task, which takes 3-4 minutes, students do task in twos, then combine with another pair to retell their stories and compare their experience. Second, planning, 5-10 minutes. Each group of 4 selects 2 stories to present to the class, divide into pair to rehearse them, go around helping if needed, and nominate spokespersons. Third is report, 5-8 minutes. Pick 4 or 5 pairs to tell their stories. Class listen, their purpose is to note down details and find what the stories have in common, and give feedback on the context, review similarities and differences in the stories, set homework, plan a first written draft of the story, changing one detail to be polished and presented to class in the next lesson. And the last stage is language focus, 15-20 minutes. First, dictate, write on board 5 good phrases from stories students told in task cycle. Write up 5 corrected phrases, sentence with a word that cause problems missing for students to discuss their meaning and complete them. The second one, based on transcript of Rachel's story, students read and circle useful words and phrases, discuss which of these are typical of spoken language and which of planned or written language. Third, handout a version of planned story, ask students to discuss how this differs from the spoken transcript. Then they can underline all past tense forms. And the last one, students write down other language features from lesson that they want to remember. Yes, that is the end of our presentation. So, through TBL, students may acquire the skills that have been identified as fundamental for 21st century society, yes? For example, collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking. It may also be a way to overcome and deal with students' bad behavior, lack of attention, and low motivation. Learner-centered lessons can be one of the possible ways to involve the engaged students and prepare them for the real world, and TBL is considered to be one of these approaches. Thank you for attention. Goodbye.